welcome to our Wednesday afternoon multifamily investing Zoom call. We get together every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, which is 5 p.m. Eastern time, and all the times forward and backwards from there. And we talk about all things multifamily with an emphasis on out-of-state investing. And I'm really excited to have today Maricela, who from Up-Plex, which is a service for investors, and then extra bonus. I'm not getting charged extra for this for getting Chris. You just brought him in for the eye candy for the ladies. Is that what that's about?
That's it.
Okay, that's not fair. That's not fair. You're distracting from me, Chris. You're too good looking. So Maricela, welcome to our call. So tell us a little bit, now your business primarily, Up-Plex, is a service for real estate syndicators, for multifamily syndicators, correct?
Yeah, well, our service is actually, we are syndicators. We are the sponsors of the investment opportunities that we provide for our investors, partners, and passive investors.
Oh, so you're sitting, I'm sorry, I thought Up-Plex was like a software service. Maybe I have the guess confused. Okay, so you're syndicators, and then what type of projects have you been doing or are you currently doing?
So we have, in this past year, we have closed 5 multifamily syndications.
Nice.
Which is, I want to say the smallest one was 138 unit apartment complex, and the largest was a 660 unit portfolio.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. And where are the properties located that you're syndicating?
Well, the one we closed last week is at 202. It's in Allen, Texas, right outside of Dallas, or in Dallas area. The one before was also in Duncanville, Texas, about 25 minutes from downtown Dallas. And then we also have some in north of Houston and North Carolina and Kentucky.
And we have one in Austin as well.
Oh, one in Austin, correct. And that's where we're located.
So you're located in Austin, Texas.
Yes.
So tell me, how did you guys get into real estate investing? Obviously, it's a husband-wife team effort. How do you guys get into it? How do you get into it together and not kill each other? Or are you still in process of killing each other? I don't know.
It's a survival day.
We opted for the divide and conquer in our day-to-day activities. So we found that we are more productive with using our strengths. And so my side of the business is more of the acquisitions and asset management. And then her side is more social media, investor relations. And we do overlap some, of course. But that way we're able to keep the mission moving forward. Our goal is to increase communities, increase the community, make it better, as well as to provide better returns for investors than what we're projecting.
Nice.
We have a military background, so maybe that's why that we get along without killing each other. We always remind each other we're in the same team and we are after the same mission. But we work together. We came from the small multifamily and the small portfolio that we were doing ourselves, and we learned that by leveraging in other relationships and by teaming up with partners, we could actually go faster, go farther. And that's when we decided to open up our investing criteria to do syndications and joint ventures.
So is the latest project you just closed here on your website?
I don't think
Actually,
that one's updated
no,
just
it's
yet.
not, because we closed last Friday. Last Friday. So
Okay. And so I kind of
Slackers.
have a feel of a number of these are between 150 and looks like 200. So that's been the more common in the past. So
Right.
are the projects you're buying, are they fully stabilized? Are you buying properties and doing value added? What's your strategy on acquisitions?
We do a mix. So if we're buying an A-class property, most of those are just a small cosmetic or community amenities type in value adds, very non-invasive. And then the B and C properties, we usually have some sort of value add, whether it's a small internal interior unit upgrade or external, maybe add an amenity, or maybe there's some deferred maintenance that needs upkeep.
So when you think of value add, what percentage of the purchase price would you say is a value add for you guys?
Usually, I'll put it somewhere between 5 and 10%.
Okay. It's so funny. You know, I have a listing for an industrial property at $2.7 million. And the buyer came with a request for repairs. His initial request was $360,000. I said, that's not a request for repairs. That's a value add project you're buying
Yeah.
when it comes to finance. So anyhow, you know, one person's value adds, another person's maintenance, but whatever. Okay. So, so, so that's kind of overviewing your projects. And for somebody who is interested in meeting you guys, obviously the purpose of this call today is to introduce you. But I don't have the ambition within a 1 hour talk to make somebody feel comfortable with working with you. What's the normal process for people who go from they meet you at something like this, or a trade show, or a convention, or a meetup, to the next step and end up investing in your syndication? How do you offer that process? Do you have your own webinars or meetings? Or what do you do to get people to move forward with you?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. We do a lot of what we do is actually work with first-time investors, or what we call the common equity. So we do spend a lot of time educating our audience. Mostly is medical providers. That's my background, and that's actually a little bit of what we, I would say, our avatar, visit professionals and business owners that don't have the time to invest and going and doing the due diligence of the properties and putting teams together. So we educate our investors for this process. We do Clubhouse. We have about 15, 16 hours of content that they can just listen to. We have a YouTube channel where we also share some of the educational stuff, question and answer format. And we also share the case studies for our own projects, as well as we do a series of savvy investor or savvy passive investors. That's the theme. And we do monthly monthly newsletter through our mailing list. So that'll be the I will say one-to-many strategy that we do. And we also have one-on-one calls. We once that we are investors, or we are partners, then we do community where we have access, the investors have access to us at any time, when we do like a masterclass and present new investment opportunities for them. So
it sounds like you're pretty well-rounded kind of outreach or intake process.
Yes.
And then your investors that invest with you, are you doing 503B, C accredited investors only? Do you take the unaccredited investors as well? What's your process there?
Usually it's Reg D 506B or 506Cs. We have done both. I will say that most of ours are 506B, so it does require at least 3 contacts, substantial contacts, to grow that relationship enough that they would be eligible for those. In the 506B offerings, we do accept up to 35 sophisticated investors. And but if we're doing a 506C, we could advertise it just about anywhere, and we don't have to have that relationship first. But in general, you want to be comfortable with the people that you're investing with, and that's part of why we have that content available for people to look at as well. They can feel comfortable and get a lot of the answers that they would normally ask.
Very nice. Now, and again, for those on the call today, the more you want to learn, ask questions, participate in business and in life, the more you participate, the more you get out of it. Feel free to raise your hand in the Zoom app. Feel free to put a note in the chat box. If you're watching this on the live stream on YouTube or Facebook as well, go ahead and put a question in, and we will get to you and bring you into it. So obviously, I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the last few months, interest rates went up quite a bit. And we were that. So I know there are projects that were funded and sold back when rates were in the 2s and 3s, and you have bridge loans that are going to come due at some point and have to be refinanced. And then the projects have to be really recalculated based on the financing being at 6.25 plus whatever now today versus whatever the rates were in 3s. So where are you in that process? Is that something you're watching carefully, or you're scrumming to keep up with it? Where are you in that process?
We are watching it carefully. Thankfully, we are, I'll say, a year plus from the end of any bridge loans that we were in. So with those, we will be at a point where we can just extend, because we do have all of our bridge loans are +1, so we get up to 5 years to utilize it. The expectation that everyone senior to us, more successful, however you want to put it, and many of the people in finance are all saying that this might be up to a 2-year cycle, at which point we will be clear of this higher interest rate to refinance. The other nice part to it, while we are in this cycle, we have the rate cap insurance on all of our properties.
There you go.
So if the interest rate exceeds the rate cap, it's covered by the insurance.
That's one of the things that, oh, and I forgot, we also have a blog that we publish through, it's in our website. But we actually, one of the most current publications in that blog, it just actually talks a little bit about how people get scared because of the blanket statements. The interest rates are going up, but some of the questions that we educate our investors to ask is, what kind of lending are you securing for purchasing this asset, right? Different lending has different assumptions. So we want them to understand that there's things that we put in our strategies that we put in place to mitigate those risks. And one of them is, like Chris was mentioning, the cap rate that we have is a sort of insurance rate cap. I'm sorry, you probably are familiar, but I'm not sure what the audience here is. But I will say, just if that's not something. I would say the simplest way is to put it as an insurance that kicks in once that we reach certain interest rate, right? So we have that in place. And currently, we actually, one of our projects that we closed in March this year, we have seen that increase in interest rate. However, we're as a team and as a project is well capitalized. So we are still covering that, and we are already projecting what is going to happen if the rates continue to increase. We gather in meetings with the rest of the team to project on what's the amount of capital that we need to preserve and have that as a capital. Working capital to cover those expenses. So I think that the most important thing when we are talking to potential investors is to explain to them and to really break down the capital stack that we're using to secure this capital, these assets. The more that they feel comfortable, the more that they feel that they understand those strategies, they will understand that people, if you look at the historical purchases or the historical rates, a year, maybe 2 years ago, securing a rate of a 7.5, it was a win. And now, that's different. So, and not only like what I call blanket statements, but also helping our audience or our investors understand how that is actually going to be affecting their returns, right? And that's what we spend quite a bit of time in one-on-ones and one-to-many meetings to share this kind of information.
As an investor, I'm strictly a limited partner investor. I don't have the ambition to do the syndication. I admire what you do and respect it and benefit from it and try to help and be a team player with that too in the community. It seems to me that, when you had investment at 8% returns, projected cash returns, or 7% cash returns projected, if rates go up, 4%, you still have 4% returns. You're okay as long as that's kind of where it's at, worst case scenario. But I guess the problems are if the property isn't financeable, whether the lenders lower the valuations or also lower their LTVs. I know there are lenders who have lowered the LTVs, but maybe 5% so far. Not much more than that out. I haven't seen. Maybe you have. But do you see the valuations in your properties changing? Because residential, we have still houses going up more slowly in price, but they're still going up a bit. They're not as interest rate sensitive, the payment is, but not the house. What do you see in the multifamily valuations? Because that will also determine your ability to get refinanced down the road.
What we're seeing in single family is that people are still able to get the same dollar amount for a loan, but they can buy much less house.
Correct.
In the large multifamily, as the price goes down, you're actually able to buy a bigger property, which is great. As far as cap rates moving, which is part of the way that they evaluate the price valuation, They haven't shifted a lot. They have started to decompress a little bit, but there's an expectation of stabilization. And for the people that underwrite conservatively, as opposed to being very aggressive with their rent increases, being very aggressive, trying to sell at the same cap rate as they bought at, those are the folks that are going to suffer. The ones like ourselves, the deal that we closed in March, we actually had a 2% increase in our cap rate, a full 200 bips is what it's called, basis points, that we have a lot of wiggle room before we're going to reach that mark. So that and that was to show our projections, right? So if we don't expand out 200 on a Class C project, we're going to exceed our expectations either in time or in value.
That's great. These are definitely, excuse me, definitely volatile times. I don't know, good or bad is always subjective, depends on which side of the screen you're on, but certainly volatile times and things are happening. I've been in real estate since 1986. I've seen things I've never seen happen. The rates just moving so quickly, so fast. Toying with 5.99 all last week, busting through it today. So these are crazy times. So are you still at the same time looking for more acquisitions, or are you taking a pause and focus? I imagine you got to be, spending more time on what you have to be careful and prudent. Is that monopolizing your time, or are you still looking for new acquisitions?
So we are still looking for acquisitions. Back in July, we actually put in 3 LOIs. 2 of them, the seller actually backed out of after heading into a best and final. So we're still actively seeking. And then we actually put in on a best and final today for another property that's in Houston. And so we'll see where that goes. But we actually know 3 out of the 6 people that were still in the running for that property.
Interesting.
So, the other thing that I will say, we are starting to see some of the sellers that you mentioned earlier that their loans are coming to either they have to refinance and they're not in a place to refinance, or they have to exit early and they're having to pay that early exiting fee, which can be millions of dollars in assets that what we buy. So we are starting to see in that, I'll say we just got a off market that this seller needs to sell type of thing. So I think that is coming. This is a time where at least from our mentors, we are mentored by Grant Cardone and Brad Sombrock, and we are seeing that urgency to be prepared to purchase. So we are definitely not slowing down.
Were you guys, speaking of Grant Cardone, were you guys at the real estate boot camp last year in November?
This is like
we were in July, December. He had another one in July this year, and then we also went to Scottsdale at the end of August.
Oh wow! I was at his real estate boot camp in Aventura. I want to say it was November. I don't think it was July.
It was December. There was one in July and there was one in December. I want to say it was like the 13th to the 15th of December. We have enough events around that time that I know I keep those dates in mind.
It was like a boot camp and a real estate boot camp right back to a business boot camp and real estate back.
Oh, right behind it.
Oh, you did
there
the
for a
business.
week.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm more for the business side. The real estate.
Yep.
I'm not in the business of real estate syndication. Now I'm a real estate broker personally, and I focus on it and more non-residential this year than ever. But my focus is more, I end up more with residential property because I focus on probate and legal real estate. I work with attorneys. So I wanted to go for the business boot camp, and because he really was the mentor that steered me through COVID. I have to tell you, I'll share a quick story with you guys since I'm the host of the call. I guess I'm allowed to.
Yes.
The day that in California we shut down for COVID was March 17th, 2020. I had that day like 23 pending escrows, all requiring court confirmation, and the court closed, meaning all were going to fall apart. And I'd worked so hard for a year to get that. I literally sat at this desk and I cried. So what am I going to do? I worked so hard. The deals were getting ready to close. I still hadn't made the money on most of it. And I was so close. I'd done so much. And I went online. I saw Grant Cardone on Facebook, and he, I guess, kind of showed he was in a similar position, but he said, well, here's what I'm doing. And he just made a list of all the action steps. And I just sat there and took notes. And I used to have next to me the notes from that meeting, which were all the make a list of all the ways I could generate income on one side and then all the things I do to cut expenses on the other. And I just did that. And a year later, my income was way up, my wealth was way up, everything worked out. So Uncle G really is my man, and I've gone to his virtual camps, and I was in Florida last year a couple of times, and look forward to it. So that's interesting to hear you're part of that.
Nice.
So what keeps you guys up at night? Obviously when you deal with investments like this, you have to be optimistic. I'm a salesperson. I have to get every day optimistic. But at the same time, I'm always looking for alligators that might walk up on my backyard if I'm not paying attention. What do you see as the alligators that you're concerned with, and what are you doing to minimize those risks?
I would say, I think, but maybe we've seen it from different angles, but I see the urgency for investors to put their capital to work. I think these are, like you mentioned earlier, volatile times, and in all aspects, I see people retrieving back to their old saving and preserving their capital and not knowing exactly what to do. So for us, we spend a lot of. This is our full-time job, so we spend all of our time in our business and personally educating others to help them make the more confident decisions. So we're always looking for what are the questions that we get, and we develop information in a digestible way so that we can inject confidence and those potential partners. I will say that from my end, that's the thing that keeps my brain going, and like how can I influence others to benefit from such strategies that we implemented and we have been super successful. And just sharing that wealth, because like I said, we've been able to 3 times our net worth in the past less than 2 years, and just we were doing hands-on, buying a house, and I think that mentality that like you said, Uncle G, he kind of forces you to step out of what, like the mentality of, I'm going to do it slow, I'm going to do it by myself. He wants, he injects that energy that we sometimes need to say, hey, step out of your comfort zone. That to me is what kind of keeps me going. What do you think?
Yeah, so you discussed earlier projections of 8%, only being able to pay out maybe 4%. That's still reasonable. With the interest rates the way they are. So the fact that our deal that closed in March is getting close to its rate cap, it actually is comforting to me, because I'm like, okay, they're going to take less and less of our bill, right? So that's actually comforting. But up until recently, it's been a little bit of a stressor as it kept eating away at that NOI, or after the NOI, net operating income. And so for us, we take comfort in the fact that we wrote conservatively, we continue to write conservatively, and if we don't get a deal, that's fine. We're not stressed about it. But the thing that keeps us up is to make sure that we're going to get the returns for the investors that we predicted. We really want to exceed those returns, if at all possible. But for us, it's at least meeting the expectations. It is the driving force for us.
Yeah, and as a limited partner, that's what I'm looking for. Somebody has a track record, and if you do that a couple of times, then occasionally you get bit once in a while, and you take a little bit of a nick. But and I'm one of those people who has capital to deploy, and I've just been a little frustrated, looking for opportunities. I'm always open to investing in Texas multifamily. I like 200 unit and up, but your size, I would definitely look at anything you guys have to offer. Be interested in Florida, because I go to Texas and Florida every year in business, so I like to be solicitous. I know the market and can go and visit and kick the tires a little bit. Okay, so and you guys are at this full time. I think that's another thing that's commendable, because there are people who do this part time. It's like, why should I work so hard, take my money, invest with somebody who this is like a hobby for them? Like, explain, how am I explaining to my wife we lost money because somebody's hobby didn't work out? My hobby, I lose a game of something. It's not a big deal. So I really appreciate you do that. So tell me about going forward. What are your goals? You said you did 5 properties last year, or in the last 12 months. What's your goals going forward? I know for me personally, Uncle G challenged me to 10x, and so I do this call. I launched this week 3 other live streams, and I've been hosting 3 as well already. So I'm
Wow.
really anxious to talk to 10 times more people with the idea of building my brand and my, reach and so on. What are you guys looking to do to continue to parlay, in maybe, scary times or maybe nervous times or volatile times? What are your plans going forward?
We have every expectation to have 2 more projects under contract by the end of the year. They probably
Nice.
won't close until early next year just because of the timeline. But we would love it if we can try to get one to close before the end of the year, get those last tax savings at 100% depreciation, cost segregation, bonus depreciation. That's the word I was looking for. So we would like to do that before the end of the year, and then going into next year.
Yeah, so just to put it on perspective, that from the time that we actually underwrite a deal, and then process through submitting LOI and getting it under contract. Just one example, the one property we closed in March this year, we went under contract December last year. It took 3 months solid, December 9th to March 9th. So that's what we're saying, that maybe due to the timeline, we might not close. But sometimes if we find a seller that wants to close ASAP and we can get everything lined up, we will definitely look into that. As far as moving forward, what I will say, we are capturing a lot of audience that are for some reason driven to reaching out in Spanish. So we're building that audience in Spanish. If you can click on our website, you can actually see the Spanish version of it.
For some reason, I can't imagine why, Maricela. It's a mystery to me why that would be. It tells you who the stronger partner is here. No, just kidding. So let's see, where are we at here?
So the very top right-hand
look
side.
at that.
Yep.
In Espanol.
In Espanol, yeah. And so we already had 19, no, about 20 investors that are actually had invested from a different country outside of Central America. So that's been an audience that kind of fall into our lap. So we're serving them and building up some of that educational material in the same manner that we have been sharing in English.
So that is one of our goals for next year. It's only September. We hadn't sat down yet to actually map it out for next year, but one of our goals is to increase the availability to the Hispanic population and folks outside that are trying to get their money somewhere working where it's going to make some benefit to them.
Bienvenido a Up-Plex. Eleve su vida, mejor su viaje de inversión con la ayuda de profesionales con experiencia en la inversión inmobiliaria. Inmobiliaria. No, inmobiliaria. I got to work on
Love
it.
it.
I tell people, I usually say this in Spanish, but for everybody else, my high school was 50% Hispanic, Mexican American.
Okay.
And so, a number of them spoke Spanish primarily in the home, including my best friend, Carlos Armillo, and his sister, his beautiful sister. So I had to learn how to speak Spanish to talk to other girls I was in high school. So.
That's funny.
I can flirt in Spanish. I don't know I can do business in Spanish. And by the way, the person who I launched this call with, Annabelle, was on the call, but she's not hosting it today. She is, I want to say, she's grew up in America. Her family's from Mexico, married to a Cuban, crazy Cuban guy. But she invested in Texas and primarily did well there because the owner spoke Spanish and the tenant spoke Spanish, and she flipped the property and made about $1.5 million, I think, net into her next property. So I know that market is, underserviced, great opportunities. If you can do it with integrity and support your community, I think that's fantastic that you're doing that. So congratulations on that. Okay, so I think I've talked a lot today. I really enjoyed meeting you guys and finding out more about you. And I know you were introduced to me by one of the people I really respect in the industry. It's always about it's not necessarily who you know, but it's who you know that who you know. And I think in this case, it was a home run for me. I really appreciate you guys being on today. If people want to get a hold of you on your website, your name is obviously invest at up-plex.com. And then the website's up-plex.com. And then right there's a link on the website. Want to schedule time to talk about them. And then they have a YouTube channel as well. Up-Plex Invest is their YouTube channel. And so lots of good content there. I kind of did a little scoping out while we're talking. Any last words of advice? Somebody who's looking to work with you, maybe they're scared, they want to make their first investment, maybe they speak Spanish and they're more comfortable talking, what would you give your last piece of advice to anybody watching this?
I'm going to go along with what Grant Cardone says, and that is, in order to call yourself an investor, you have to invest. If you're not comfortable running the project, find people that are, and like you said, get comfortable with them so that you can then invest with them and push forward. We'd love to help people on their journey.
I was saying invest and wait. Don't wait to invest, because as you know, the earlier that you get started, the earlier that you see the results.
That's good point. And also something Grant says also is when you pay attention. And so that's why I went to the real estate investment, and I as a result right away upped my game a little bit last year. But I still have some cash to invest, and I do like the cost segregation thing's fantastic. So I'm all ears. If you guys have your next project, please reach out to me and let me either look at it for myself or for my friends and family and customers and such. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much. It was fantastic. I enjoyed it, and look forward to seeing you down the road and hearing more victories about you down as you continue success.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a good
you.
day.
Likewise.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm Bill Gross. This is our Wednesday afternoon multifamily investing. We do this every Wednesday at noon. I'm sorry, at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, and all the times in between. We live stream it to YouTube and Facebook. Love to have you guys put comments in the chat box. We'll respond to you. William Holmes, nice seeing you, man. Always a pleasure. Have a great day.